After last week's little sewing wobble, I've decided I need a reset. So today we're focusing on progress, pretty things and getting back on track. Cheers. Hi there, my name's Sam and welcome to my little part of the internet, Sewcial Sparkle with Sam. Now, I realised after last week's video that I completely forgot to show you something that actually feels quite important. So I bought myself a little birthday present for the studio, not for me, this time for the studio. And I'll just pop in the little sign. So I bought myself a little sign for the studio after having a little chat with the lovely Ruanne, the Yorkshire Sew Girl, who has a friend who makes them, and her name is Julie and she is Spotted Owl Crafts. I'll put all of her details down below. So I had a lovely little chat with Julie. She made the whole thing really easy to do, easy to order. We kind of had a little chat about what I wanted, had a little bit of back and forth and came back with the perfect sign for me. I decided to go for the bright red. There was a little sparkly option, but I wanted it to pop out of the white wall. So I've been wanting something like this for a while, something that really makes the space feel intentional. And when I saw Julie's work, I knew that it would be perfect. So it arrived. The whole process was very easy. And I've fixed it up on the wall with some tiny little clear hooks, so it almost looks like it's floating, and that makes me ridiculously happy. But what I love the most isn't really just how it looks. It's now that my students have somewhere to stand and take photos of their makes under the sign, and they get that little moment in the spotlight, you know, a little spotlight, and they stand there either holding something that they've made or wearing something that they've made, and it feels like a celebration, and I think that's what matters. So yeah, I am really pleased with it. There's not enough sparkle in this world, so if I can create a tiny little space where people walk in and feel inspired, feel brave enough to try something new, then that feels really special. Right, now the studio is feeling reset. It's time to go on something nice and productive. So behind the scenes this week, I've been quietly working away on the Magnolia dress that I am making for my journey to Plymouth Frock Tales. So I've been working on that. I've taken a lot of time, and I mean a lot of time, getting the fit right. And I've made multiple toiles, adjusted, tweaked, you know, all that good stuff. And I've really paid attention to how it feels on my body. So I'm now going to insert a few days ago me with my finished toile, so my finished viscose toile, and you can have a look how I felt about it. So I am happy to report that after the number 5 toile of this Magnolia dress by Deer and Doe, I am finally there, I think. So I'm really happy where it kind of hits the V on my bust point, because I have still, this is just a toile, so I have not put any binding on. So the binding will bring out just a touch, and I think that that's all it needs. It is an evening dancing dress, so I think a little bit of cleavage is acceptable. And yeah, and I am really pleased. This now sits on my waist, where my waist is, which is great. The only little tiny thing is that it doesn't quite sit on my shoulders, but obviously I haven't put the sleeves in, and I've marked where the 1.5 seam allowance is. And if you take that into consideration, it is just about, it could just do with like not even half a centimetre, but just a little tiny bit. So what I'm going to do, and I've written this down on my mock-up toile for the seam allowance is that I'm just going to be a bit generous with the seam allowance when I sew my sleeves in, and I think that that will sort that out. But yeah, so this is my original one, and I've marked all of the changes that I've made, and I've also changed it on my pattern pieces. So what I've done is I've added a centimetre here, and I've also added a centimetre here. So I didn't want to make this bit a centimetre lower, because actually the bottom of my bust is here, so I didn't want it to be lower here, because then it would make my bust look a bit droopy. And you know, nobody needs that, do they? So I decided to add it here. So I've got the 1 centimetre here and the 1 centimetre, and I hope you agree that, yeah, and then it fits nicely under my arm. But again, you have to imagine the 1.5 centimetre seam allowance taken out. So yeah, I think I'm ready to cut into the good stuff. So as you can see, I'm really happy with the way that that looks. There are going to be a few tweaks that are going to have to happen in the make. Within the make, it's kind of going to be one of those suck it and see moments, but I'm feeling really ready, and I'm feeling really productive. I'm ready to cut into the good stuff. So I'm using a beautiful fabric from Beyond the Pink Door. It's Andrea's Lovely Fun Fabric, designed by the lovely Rachel Parker. Scrap here. Now this beautiful fabric really deserves a pattern that fits properly, and I think taking the time with the toiles means that I can cut into this feeling confident instead of nervous. So let's go cut into the good stuff. I think the difference between a project that ends up in the naughty corner and one you're really proud of is patience. So today we're choosing patience. There's something really satisfying about knowing that you've done all of the groundwork. So now I've got that toile that I'm really happy with. Every notch, every mark, every piece labelled, and that all sets you up for success. So I'm giving my fabric a really good spray with Best Press. It smells delicious, and it really does the job, because the viscose can sometimes be a little bit slippy, slidey to cut out, and this just helps stiffen it slightly and also helps hold the pattern pieces on nicely, which makes it much easier to cut out. I'm a big believer in pressing makes things pretty, so I never miss out the pressing part. My goal today is simple: cut everything out carefully, label all the pieces and take my time. Sometimes I think we rush because we're excited, but actually confidence comes from slowing down and doing it properly. So all of the pattern pieces are cut out, every notch is marked and every piece is labelled, so it's all set ready to sew. And if you stay to the end of the video, I'll pop a little kind of clip in of me perfecting the bias binding. So I've decided, I did think long and hard, should I buy bias binding, should I make my own? And I decided I really wanted to give this kind of fabric this moment in the sun, and I think that it will be a much nicer finish with the self fabric as bias binding. I do have the Simplicity bias binding machine, so if you stop to the end, I will show you a little clip of me making my bias binding and maybe a little tip in there too. So if you want to join me in finishing my Magnolia dress on the 15th, so on Sunday of this week, between 10 and 2, so it's a 4-hour session on my Sewcial Sparkle, which you can go and book by popping along to my website, sewcalsparkle.com, and then you can come for 4 hours and sew a dress with me. I'll be sewing my Magnolia. What will you be sewing? So yes, that brings me on to Sunday is the 15th, which means Saturday is the 14th of February, which is Valentine's Day. And if you are in a bit of a mad panic thinking, oh, actually, I haven't even thought about Valentine's Day, and you fancied something very, very quick to make, I have just popped on my website a little free tutorial of how to make one of these. It's a little love pouch, if you like, a 2-seamed purse. There is a video tutorial already on my YouTube channel, and with a little popper, you've got a little wallet there so you can put little chocolates in. Just to note, a Freddo chocolate bar fits perfectly in there. Won't tell you how I know that, but yeah, little notes, any kind of something small, or a gift card for somebody, a little voucher, or you could put an IOU to a takeaway in there, anything you like. But yeah, go and download that on my website, and you've got your Valentines or your Galentines, however you celebrate, all sorted. So before I go, I just want to say a quick thank you to everybody for all of your lovely comments on my last vlog. I was a little bit nervous about putting that one up, and caring comments are, you know, the kindness meant such a lot. So thank you very much. I think sometimes when things just don't go to plan, the best thing you can do is just start the next seam. Thanks ever so much for joining me. Don't forget to sparkle. Bye for now. So when making your bias binding, you want to make sure that you've got first of all, you need to cut your bias binding. And I actually used a lovely video from Lifting Pins and Needles where I cut a huge amount of binding from just a small square. So I'll link that in the description down below. Definitely new blade, or even better, new rotary cutter, particularly when you are cutting fine fabric. And of course, my trusty tweezers, which I can help to push this along in here. And then when the green light is on, you're ready to run. So you just press run. And as you can see, your lovely bias binding comes out as if like magic through your bias binding machine. And I have got meters and meters and meters of this to do. So I'll see you again soon. So if after making your bias binding you have got some left over and you want to keep it for another project, then grab yourself an empty spool. I have got lots of these. Grab your end of your bias tape, a piece of washi tape, pop that on to hold it. Stick it in place, roll it onto your spool, and then another piece of washi tape to secure it, and you have the most beautiful bias tape for another day. How about that?